Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today you are going to be checking out something called Colt55 by developer Owen Deary. This was designed for the 7-day FPS Game Jam, as was the last one I covered, and I think we're going to probably be doing a few more going into the future because there's a lot of good entries here. And this one in particular is an infinite wandering game where we can go make friends with a horse. It's optional, but I choose to do it whenever possible. It's actually a really interesting, surreal kind of wandery game where everything is going to come up around us in a very satisfying and different visual presentation than I'm used to seeing ever before. And I'll explain that stuff in a second, but before we get into it, I do want to warn you if you have any issues with motion sickness, that effect feels to me like something that could make people feel very uneasy very quickly. So if that's an issue for you, just wanted to let you know before we jump in. So let us do that, and I'll explain what we're doing here. Alright, so we've clicked to start, and we will spawn in some kind of random location, as far as I can tell, in some sort of random situation, and let's have a little look around here before we get started. Okay, so I've got mountains in every direction. Looks like desert scape, and we're holding some kind of crazy-looking plasma cannon or pistol of some kind, and when I fire it, leaves a little glowing ingot of rock on the ground, which then explodes into fragments of cloud, which rise into the sky. I mean, pretty obvious stuff. Everybody expects that when you're playing a game. So the thing that I mentioned about the visual presentation, well, there's many things going on here. One of them is that anything can happen at any point in time. That land sandworm thing, Jai Halud type object seemed to have just proved my point, that even when I'm standing perfectly still, crazy stuff can happen. But anyway, so there will be weird events like that. They will be sometimes affected in the game, sometimes they won't really do anything, and they could actually have pretty far-reaching implications. But the big thing is that when I walk, the way this seems to work is that there's kind of a twofold terrain mesh thing happening, where there's one that's sort of preordained and just sort of like there in front of you, and then there's a second layer that actually happens dynamically as you walk around based on your proximity. So as you can see, this mountain, based on how close we are to it, will actually kind of fade into and out of existence. Oh god, what's happening? Okay, let's fire at the worm thing, because it can actually, yeah! It'll turn into a beanstalk that rises up infinitely into the sky, and who wouldn't want that? Well, I guess it's just kind of like flying up there. Reminds me a lot of Nobi Nobi Boy, actually. So you'll see, because I've destroyed this worm, we've now transcended from a realm of eternal desert to, well, an alternate realm of eternal desert that seems to have some sort of black and white thing going on. Now we can actually approach one of these horses, and the text is a bit obscured here, but we can press space to interact with this horse. I choose to do so because what this allows us to do is enter an infinite wandering realm where the horse will actually take care of the wandering forest, and we can actually just focus on taking in the wildly surreal and psychedelic sights and sounds. Should be mentioned, of course, we've got that sort of cowboy bebop slide guitar with a lot of reverb playing in the background, which I find really perfectly represents the ambience that we want in a situation like this. It's very whimsical, a little mysterious, and also gives us a little bit of that, like, rough and tumble vibe. And you'll notice there's nothing really outside of that sound playing in the background and my gun firing as far as sound effects, at least from what I've seen so far. By the way, there is no limits as far as, like, height mesh, so you can really just crawl up a mountain completely sideways, and the constraints will not get in your way. There is sort of like a smashing sound if you fall from too high in the sky, but there's no damage, there's no death, there's no negative consequences for any of your actions. You can take your time and explore and just enjoy yourself, and I really enjoy what happens here, where we're just sitting and riding, and we can just look around, check out that chromatic aberration, or if that's even what that is, around that blurry cloud off in the distance, fading from like a lime green to a yellow. It even happens around the gun, actually. Anything with the sky happening in the background. There's actually a little bit of red in there, too, if you look at the edges on the right side. I guess where there's red on the right, there's green on the left, and then it's all surrounded by yellow on the top. So we've got this gradating pattern of a very dark blue fading into a bright white. And I would love to trigger the color scheme to change again if we can run into another event, but I'm not sure when or where that's going to happen. See, there's a worm off in the distance. I'm actually going to chase that down. I'd like to see more events happening, and I have seen several. They are not limited to just horses and worms. There's also occasionally, like, a spare rib floating around on the ground that can spin around. Oh, the horses actually wait for you. Oh, I really liked what happened there for a second. We had a very beautiful... Oh, God, everything's all artifacted. This is not YouTube compression, guys. Oh, there's the spare rib I was talking about a second ago. Okay, we're actually in a realm of eternally rotating spectrum. Spectries? I don't think that's a thing. Can I shoot this? I don't know what to do with this. Doesn't seem to affect the game at all. Maybe... Oh! It's turning into a monolith, and then it melts back down again. So when I shoot it, is that what's doing it, or is it just an animation that's playing? I'm not really sure. If you guys haven't figured this out already, though, I'm so jazzed by games like this. These do exactly what I want in video games. Things that just have very little to map to actual reality, or just, you know, vague hints of things, like the fact that this has horses, or like the fact that you can sort of make a very loose connection to that this is some sort of sandworm. Oh no, it's all dark now. Maybe the color schemes are actually very variable. Maybe they're actually not predetermined, because I thought they might have been. Oh, okay, what's going on here? We've got some kind of blobs, which I'm gonna hunt down. I don't even know if it's good or bad to be fighting these things. Maybe it's indifferent, actually. And I wonder what's up with this artifacting look in the background, because it's like, you wouldn't really expect that to be an intentional thing, but it seems like it is. Is there another one? Well, we can see very well here, but we might get in a position where the landscape becomes very dark if I rotate through these color schemes too many times. Oh, man. So you've got red and green this time. Sometimes these are very garish color combinations. Other times they're quite stunning to look at. I wouldn't say this is probably one of my favorites all in all, but I guess we could just keep rotating by finding more worms. I wish we could find some more events, though. We could always just wander for a while until we find some more horses or something. And this does actually lead me to what is usually my point whenever I talk about games like this. Boy, do I wish this would just have a sort of spectator mode where we would just let it play itself without the gun on screen. Oh man, some sort of a solar eclipse going on. Are we in night? Maybe there's actually a day-night cycle here, I didn't even realize. But yeah, I'd love to see if this game could just become a thing that's just passively going in the background. And again, the horses allow us that, but I would love to just make the gun just disappear too, so we could just have it be always centered on some sort of a rotating viewpoint on the lands ahead of us. Oh man, is that a cloud? It looks like a massive floating bunch of mountains up in the sky. That would be sweet if we could get up there. But alas, very likely that we cannot. This is a very ambitious project, and I would absolutely love to see this developed into something more. Even though, you know, 7-day FPS games usually aren't even quite this big, this feels like quite a bit done here between the visual effect, the bunch of different events, the fact that everything seems to work seamlessly. It's very trippy and psychedelic and surreal and quite beautiful. But if this had some real meat to it in terms of gameplay, maybe some things you could discover that would add to some sort of a checkbook, or you know, the fact that you've got like maybe a bunch of things on your list that you want to see or discover, and have some unlocks happen over that. I think this could actually be a lot of fun for an even wider audience than those of us who just like to go on little wandering journeys, and I am certainly one of those people who will find endless pleasure in that. It's reminding me a lot of Fracked OSC as well. It's something to do with, I guess, the way that these pulsating vertices seem to be undulating through the ground. Seems like a thing that they would be all into, and the fact that it almost seems like these mountains are gyrating along with the music in a way. There's definitely an intrinsic tempo to this game. The music and the visuals do seem sort of intangibly linked in a way, even though they're not directly linked. But it's a very, very cool experience. Very relaxing as well, and I would definitely recommend that you check this out. You can play it right in your browser, too. As far as I could tell, I couldn't actually find a downloadable version, but I wish there was one. I would actually love to see this in even higher resolution, too. But, you know, maybe the developer has that available somewhere, just wasn't able to find it. Oh, we've plummeted off a cliff. There you go. You can finally hear that hit the ground hard sound. And it is okay. So anyway, that's going to do it for another episode, guys. Definitely highly recommended. Colt55. Go check it out. Link's going to be right in the description. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, as always. And be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, because that does help me continue the series on. As always, make sure you come back again tomorrow if you're into a daily new artistic, original, or unique indie game. That's what I've got here on youtube.com/RockLeeSmile. If you enjoy that concept, consider subscribing to the channel. That also helps out substantially. And I will be happy to bring you another one tomorrow. We've got a lot more meat to cover when it comes to 7-day FPS and the Proc Jam. Jam games. So look forward to more wild stuff like this, and I'm absolutely looking forward to diving in and finding even more. So I will catch you all then, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to you later.